This is a love letter because we all need them, and they come so rarely.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to PDSS. And today we're going to be interviewing Jeffrey Morse. One day, Jeffrey suffered a brain aneurysm, a dissected artery, and a paralysis causing spinal cord stroke. At the age of 49, Jeffrey was told he would likely never walk again. He made a vow that he would walk out of that hospital. 6 weeks later, he did just that. Jeffrey's journey has led him to embark upon a new career as a flight instructor, author, and motivational speaker. And Jeffrey can be found online at jeffreyamorse.com, on Twitter at finding_forward, on Facebook at Jeffrey A. Morse, and on Instagram at finding_forward. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Jeffrey to the conversation. So welcome, Jeffrey, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on your show, Cam. It's such a pleasure and such an honor to be here with you today. I'm really looking forward to talking with you.
We're going to talk about his book, his journey, everything. Oh, you are so welcome. I am looking forward to this interview. So give us a little bit about yourself, about when you had your stroke and or the aneurysm, and bring us into now.
Okay, so the aneurysm, the stroke, and the paralysis all took place in July of 2012. And over the last 9 years, I have spent a good portion of my time finding my way back, finding my ability to improve my walking, to recover my independence again, to go back to work. And I've been successful in each and every one of those. I still work very, very hard at improving my gait as I walk, and my balance has gotten quite a bit better, but I continue to make recovery. So that's the one thing I've been most happy about, that this has not plateaued on me. I'm still very involved with getting myself moving, but I'm also very involved in getting back in my life again and not letting my limitations and my disability define me. So next thing I know, I'm in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. And when I get there, the emergency room doctor asks for a CAT scan. And when the x-ray tech did the CAT scan, she had something telling her, you know what, other than the CAT scan of your head, maybe I ought to do one of your neck. And she knelt down to tell me she did that. She whispered in my ear that she was doing that. And thank goodness she did, because the x-ray or the CAT scan of my neck revealed the aneurysm and the dissection above it on the same artery. So that really saved my life. And after that, I found that evening, I'm now being transferred to Charlotte, North Carolina, to a hospital where a neurosurgical team could start watching me over the next 10 days. And their plan was to try to use medication to reduce the size of the aneurysm. And that wasn't working. So the doctor, the neurosurgeon, told me, hey, all we have left is surgery, but you need to know going into this that you've got less than a 25% chance of surviving the surgery. So I told him, you know, look, 25% is better than nothing. So if this is all that's left, then let's get to it. So on July 9th, the morning of July 9th, I had the surgery. And when I woke up from it, I started realizing that I couldn't move my body. I could think about moving my body, but there wasn't anything there. And I quickly realized I was paralyzed from the neck down. When the doctor came in to talk with me, he told me the surgery was a success. I told him I couldn't move. He understood, and he with his hand on my shoulder said, you've more than likely had a stroke, and you're more than likely never going to walk again. And I looked at him and I said, that's not good enough for me. I'm only 49 years old. There's more to my life, and I'm going to walk out of this hospital. So I was determined to make that happen. So while I lay there with everything on my mind of, hey, where do I start? There's no instruction book on how you start moving again after something like this happens. What's first? What's second? What's third? And that was when I realized, if I'm ever able to walk or move again in any way, I want to be able to start taking notes of this, because I'm going to make the goal right here, right now, of being able to put a story together, to write a book, to reach out to people that are going through what I'm going through, to say, life's not over. So I wasn't ready to throw a towel in and give up. I was determined to fight and move on, wherever that was going to take me. So I got busy with that. I started making goals, ridiculous goals, just to keep my mind occupied. And during that time, the other thing that I said to myself was, you know what? Everything works from the neck up. So why don't you focus on the positive instead of the negative? So, okay, your body doesn't move right now, but you can still see, you can hear, you can talk, your brain works. So work with that. Just focus on the positive and hold yourself there. One of the other things that I had to deal with was breathing. I was a question mark. I wasn't supposed to survive a stroke on my spinal cord, let alone the surgery that I went through. And I did a lot of thinking to myself while I was trying to breathe. And one of the other things I realized was, when you go through a traumatic incident like this, one of the things you're always saying to yourself is, if I can only make it to the next day, which is a great goal. And for me, for quite some time, that goal was, if I could just make it to the next breath. And I lived like that for months. If I could just make it one breath at a time, I'm living from one breath to the next. So I'm going to enjoy each breath. And again, that was just me trying to find something positive in this devastation. So I moved on from it. I started finding in physical therapy, when they first took me in there, they stood my body up, and it felt strange after days of laying down and not feeling my body to be vertical again. Of course, I couldn't feel anything. And once again, I was tapping into that positive. All right, they're standing me up. I can't feel my body, but look at this as a leap of faith. Look at it as, okay, you can't feel your body, but they put you in a position and your body is holding itself for whatever reason, even though you can't feel it. So don't feel the need to latch on to what was before. This is the new you now. So let's start figuring this out. And I figured, if they could put me in this position and cause me to stand, there must be some good coming out of this. And I was ready and willing to work with that every day in the hospital, every 2 sessions each day going to therapy. While I was going through all of that, the gentleman in the bed next to me had diabetes and lost a leg below the knee, and he was giving up. He didn't want to work with the doctors or nurses anymore. And since neither one of us could sleep each night, I would tell him, all you need is a prosthetic leg and you can get on with your life. Do that. Grasp that. You've been given another chance, so move on with your life. And I would tell him these things each day and each evening. And unbeknownst to me, the nurse's station was right outside of our door. And the nurses would listen to me trying to motivate him each night, and they would sit out there and cry. They eventually moved me out of the room because bad things were getting ready to happen with him, and they didn't want me in the room when that happened. And I felt really bad about that. But one of the other things it said to me was, if I can offer some kind of motivation to somebody else, even though I'm paralyzed, I do still have something to offer. I do have a life that's worth living. So there, once again, I didn't realize it at the time, but something was speaking to me to say, keep fighting, keep moving, and keep working on defining what this thing is that's keeping you going, but don't lose your fight. Try to keep everybody else happy. When people come to visit you and they see you laying there paralyzed, talk about something that gets them laughing. Again, offer something positive. That's your ability. So do that, use it. Use what's positive to keep you going forward.
So absolutely. And I love the fact that you thought about taking notes and stuff. Kudos to you, thumbs up, whatever, that you were able to do that. You said, because I understand about modern medicine, regular medicine not working, or not that it didn't work, but it didn't work fast enough for me. So I looked at alternative medicines. So doctors of Chinese medicine with acupuncture, cupping, drinking their specialty, whatever it was, and something called neuro movement. And now I work with a personal trainer because physical therapy doesn't think outside the box, and this
Correct.
guy did, because he actually was a brain injury survivor, a TBI survivor ×2, and he's now a personal trainer. So he gives me no slack, and he thinks outside of the box and he understands my brain doesn't always work to move. So what kind of things did you do with that?
Well, the first thing I did after I got out of the hospital, I did meet that goal of the day I was released from the hospital. They wheeled me up to the front door, and with a walker, although it was ugly, I was able to put one foot in front of the other out to the car. So I wanted to make that statement, not only to the doctors that didn't believe that would happen, but to myself, to say, you keep this up no matter what. So once I got back home, I called my personal trainer and I asked him if he could come to the house and work with me. And I was finding that was helpful, but it just wasn't enough. And it was going back into what I used to do when I worked in the gym, and that wasn't going to work anymore. So I was also working with a chiropractor because my skeletal structure couldn't maintain itself anymore because my muscles weren't working properly. Of what muscles did work, they were trying to overcome the ones that didn't work. So it was putting my spine in a bad place. So the chiropractic work was certainly helping. While I was there, massage therapy was helping me. I was doing something with a specialist called interactive metronome that was helping the left and right side of my brain, even though I didn't have a stroke on the brain. It was helpful with the left and right sides of my body. I was also doing acupuncture. And one of the things I liked about the acupuncture was it turned my brain off. When you go through something like paralysis and you start getting a little movement back, your brain is always working in your conscious mind to know where you are situationally in space. And it's very difficult to turn that off. So the acupuncture, 30 or 40 needles in my body, was great because it just settled everything down, and it turned my brain off like a light switch. From there, as time went on, when I could maintain myself vertical enough, I started trying Tai Chi. but I was finding the movement was too much and I wasn't able to sustain what I was trying to do. And it was real torture on my brain at that point. So one of the other things that I found was Pilates. And when I found that, the one thing I loved about that was on the machines that you're using, you're close to the ground. You don't feel like you're falling, which for somebody that's been paralyzed, you're always worried about that. So Pilates was terrific. The other thing that I liked about Pilates was it's not like the gym. We're not working the big muscles anymore. We're now working the smaller stability muscles. And that's exactly what I needed to help me with doing this thing of standing and being vertical, but then maintaining my balance. So Pilates was a very big leap forward for me in figuring out what balance meant again and getting these smaller muscles working. From there, the next thing I needed to address was all the pain I was in. So one of the other things that I was battling was something called fascia. And fascia isn't something the medical community addresses. They're not taught fascia in medical school. Doctors don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it. Yet here's this thing that's choking my body off and making it difficult for me to move. So my Pilates instructor introduced me to a neuromuscular massage therapist. And once again, this was yet one more game changer. So the two big things that I started finding were Pilates and the neuromuscular work. And the neuromuscular work was breaking down the fascia. So my nervous system, the circulation in my nervous system could regain itself, and I could get neuromuscular input into muscles once again. One other therapy I found that was extremely helpful was dry needling. So with the dry needling, when they put the needles in, they move them up and down like they're churning butter, and they turn them at the same time. And the fascia actually attaches itself to the needle. So then when they start moving the needle more, they're breaking down the fascia. So of all the things that I tried between yoga, the work with the chiropractor, the things that I ultimately found were these three things. And they were huge game changers, not only helping me move forward with movement, but they were giving me quality of life again, reducing my pain. My pain scale was through the roof. I was, they give you the pain scale of 0 to 10. I always felt like I was a 20. And the neuromuscular massage therapist was able to start bringing that down. So I was very grateful for all of it. During that time, I was also on a lot of medication, and I was finding the side effects of the medication with some of them was causing muscle rigidity. And when I would address that with my doctor, she would tell me that wasn't the case. And having done my homework, I showed her paperwork on the side effects of the medication. And she kept trying to talk me into medical procedures like Botox injections in my hamstrings on my right leg, and then cutting my Achilles tendon. And I wasn't up for either one of those. And I started on my own, weaning myself off the medication. And as soon as I started doing that, and this was my choice, I'm not recommending that to anybody. Do this through your doctor, by all means. I made my own choice with this for me, and I started weaning myself off of it. And what I started finding was that the muscle rigidity started going away. And now the neuromuscular massage therapist was able to get in and start breaking the fascia down even more, so my nervous system could start responding. And that was a difficult time, but it was working. I've been with that therapist for 6 years, and the difference between then and now is just breathtaking. So I've been very grateful along the way.
So, when did you start writing the book?
I started writing the book in March of 2017. By that time, I was right-handed, right side dominant, right hand dominant, and the stroke and paralysis left me with being now left hand dominant. I wasn't able to use my right hand to type. The notes that I took over the years began with me speaking into my phone to do voice messages to journal. And as time went on and I could tap with a finger on the phone, I could journal that way, writing. In 2017, 5 years later, I was able to type, but I wrote the whole book left-handed. I typed the whole book, the whole manuscript, left-handed.
Okay. So, what's the name of your book?
Finding Forward. Finding
Finding
Forward, you
Forward.
have the will within.
Okay. And when did it come out?
It just released this past November 16th.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah.
So it's fairly new. Okay. Cool. So, you also are a motivational speaker. Tell me a little bit about that too.
Well,
Do
that's a
you?
new venture. So
Okay.
uh, I haven't been able to move forward on that that far yet, but I do that all the time
Okay.
at work. When I'm working
Yeah.
with new pilots coming into the industry for the very first time, I don't ever want them feeling like they're going to drink from the fire hose while they're learning this new job, being an airline pilot. So this is something I've done for years, not only at work, but with friends, family, just trying to get everybody to slow down and take a different view on life and slow things down and realize your life makes a difference. You only get to do this life thing once. So make something of it. Don't squander what you've been given. And definitely don't squander what you've been given when you've been given that second chance at life. So it's always important to me to reach out and help. And giving back for me has been not just one more therapy,
Mhm.
but it's another way of healing, and it makes me feel better. It takes the edge off of trying to move or move properly, and I might be critiquing myself on how I move, and suddenly I might realize I'm so focused in on that and not what's going on around me.
Right.
So those are the things that you got to keep reminding yourself of.
Right. And, there are some of us who do try to go out and motivate people, no matter how it is, whether pre-stroke, after stroke, whatever. I always did that. We talked about I volunteered and stuff even before this. So I ran 2 Girl Scout troops, and I loved introducing those kids to something new, or to telling them that it's okay that you couldn't climb the rock wall. Look at me. I only got up, a third of the way, and you went, whatever it is. And even now, though, it's like I had told you, I got out on the tennis court. Some people would say it was a fail. I thought it was pretty good because I at least got out there and hit the ball. Did I run the court? No. So, you have to learn, as we tell other stroke survivors, or any type of person, whether they're, I don't want to say normal because that's not right, but whether they have no disability or whether they have disability, it's try it. Just go out and try it, and even continue trying it until you get it. I mean, because if you keep going, I mean, you don't learn how to play football in one day. You have to
Correct.
keep going. So, there is no negative here. It's just keep trying to do something new, or new things, and it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, what you
So,
say is
yeah.
it's so extremely important that we always realize that, like we were talking earlier, I think getting out on the court is a huge win.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be careful for those of us with limitations and disabilities. Uh, it's easy for us to say, get out on the tennis court
Mm-hmm.
and say, oh, I failed. I didn't succeed. No,
Mm-hmm.
you did succeed. You really succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
What you don't need to do is compare yourself to somebody that doesn't have limitations. You got out there and you set your fears aside
Mm-hmm.
and you said, hey, I'm going to get out there and give that a try. You're already a
Mm-hmm.
winner for just doing that. Doesn't matter if you hit the ball or not. You got out there and you
Absolutely.
created some new memories. I recently went up to the Blue Ridge Parkway one weekend to go for a hike. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got up there, the trail that I chose, I didn't realize was as rocky as it was. And there were a lot of people out that day on that trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept having to move off to the side. And then I finally realized halfway up that these rocks are too big for me to scale. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to hurt myself or throw caution to the wind. And I said, okay, you got this far. Great. You didn't make it to the top. That's okay. You can come back and try it so many more times. And just like you said, you don't learn football in a day. So don't be hard on yourself about it.
Absolutely. There's a story that I've told on here before, and it really hit home, and I think it will with you too. So, this guy was a dentist, and he was in his 70s or so when I met him, and he actually drove himself. And he may have been in his 80s, but he drove himself from Springfield, Missouri to near St. Louis, Missouri, to talk to my stroke support group. And he had not had a stroke, but he had had two brain surgeries, and the second one unfortunately kind of went bad, and so his whole left side was paralyzed.
Mhm.
He was a dentist in the military, and it was interesting. He said, take the word no, can't, or no, or any negative type words out of your vocabulary, and he said your life will change. uh, he practiced dentistry. He asked his superiors or whatever. He said, hey, I need to keep doing this, and they allowed him to still be a dentist, and he had to figure out how to do it one-handed. And not only that, but his wife at some point left him on his own one day because she was helping him with everything, and he had to figure out how to get his clothes on, his shoes on. And when she came home, he had his shirt all, crooked, but he got it on. He had his shoes not tied, but they were on, and I don't know what he ate for breakfast, but he had made breakfast. So he did these steps, and he did the dentistry. And again, I'm thinking about my dentist getting in my mouth, and how would he do that with just one hand? I don't know. But he did it, and he said, take the word can't out. So I did take the word can't out of my vocabulary. I did sometimes switch it to, I can't do it right now, but I am working towards this. Same thing with the tennis court thing. And the interesting part was, he said, I play golf. He said, I had to learn how to do it one-handed. He flew planes. He said, I owned several planes and I flew. He said there are no limitations. There are only limitations that you put on yourself.
That's correct. Yeah, I say a number of times in the book, when I was in the hospital, two words I was not going to let into my vocabulary ever again were the words I can't. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to let those words in. And it was very important to me through my through my recovery, through my therapy, I was never going to let those words in and affect me or change my way of thinking, because I could only see moving forward. There was no time to look back. Looking back was the other life. That life's gone now. It's time to move on. I've been given a second chance at this new life, and I'm going to make this work one way or another. Um, when I learned how to drive again, I thought, wow, isn't this great? I've now gotten back a little more of my independence, just like learning how to dress myself, feed myself. And now here I am, I'm back in a car again, and I couldn't use my right foot. So I had to use my left foot. I had to use my left foot on the accelerator and the brakes. Next thing I know, I'm going to the grocery store. And one of the first times I did that, I found I was always stepping on the back wheels of the cart because I didn't know where my feet were. And, on one of those other occasions, I'm walking at the back of the grocery store. I've got a death grip on the grocery cart to keep me up, and I've got my cane in the cart and a few items. And as I'm moving along the back of one of the aisles, there was a couple, an elderly couple in the carts for disabled people, the ones that they have at the grocery store. And they're riding up and down the aisles at high speed. They've got walkie-talkies around their necks, and they're speeding up and down the aisleways. Well, as I went by one of the aisle ends, the husband ran into me, knocked the cart over, knocked me over the top of the cart, and he was yelling at me that, I should look where I'm going. And I could have let that defeat me, and I chose not to. I pulled myself off the cart. I, with my left hand, was able to pull the cart up and right it, and then holding onto the cart, putting things back in, including my cane. And now I've got this man and his wife yelling at me that I got in the way and I wasn't watching what I was doing. And I said to them both, I think you should both be ashamed of yourselves for riding around in those carts. You don't appear as though you need them. Those should be for people that are limited, that have trouble walking, like myself. But I wasn't going to let that bother me. I could have said, that's it, I'm done. I'm never going in a grocery store again. But I wasn't going to do that. That's part of life. Those things happen. You're going to run into people that do those things. It's okay. Just move on from it. And, find something better, find something positive out of it. What did I find positive out of it? I raised a grocery cart. I stood a grocery cart back up again.
Oh my gosh, yes. That in itself, I don't even think I could have done that when pre-stroke, much less, after. I don't even think I could do that now, So yeah. So when you were saying all of that about this and your response to it, this came to mind, and I looked it up while you were talking. It says, you cannot control everything in life, but you can control you.
Yeah.
Who you are being, how you are treating others, what purpose is driving you. And I think that's the perfect example of how we all should, work. Unfortunately, we know how that works in society. It's not that, but we do need to wrap up. And I hate that because I am so enjoying this conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. So just again, Jeffrey can be found online at jeffreyamorse.com. He's on Twitter at finding_forward and on Facebook at Jeffrey A. Morse, and on Instagram at finding_forward. And, I think you all should take a look at any of this, the book, everything, because I really think, Jeffrey, that you are a great positive influence. And I'd like to talk more, but we know that sometimes the audience doesn't like to sit here and listen to us for long periods of time. And we actually have gone over a little bit. But are there any like words of wisdom or just anything you want to end with?
Be grateful to your caregivers. Be grateful not only to your family caregivers, but the therapists that work with you. Thank them. Thank them for their patience, and try to go through your life open-minded and objective, and realize you've been given another chance. So don't squander it. Don't let this limitation or disability define you. Find a way through, and no matter what, find something positive in each and every day, even if it's just looking out the window and observing a bird or a little bit of nature. Realize, though, you've been given a second chance at life, so embrace it and be happy. Live your life.
Absolutely, because no matter what, you can always live your life. You can try new things. You can, whatever it is, the gratefulness, finding purpose. I mean, they're all in there, and you can do this no matter what your disability is or not non-disability. You can always do these things, and it
Yes.
will make your life so much richer in the long run. So, Jeffrey, I want to thank you so much, and I think you should come back, and I think we should continue this conversation, because this has just been a great time for me. And I hope you had a great time too.
Cam,
And yeah.
I did. I had a spectacular time, Cam. I cannot thank you and Daniel enough for inviting me on the show. I would absolutely love to come back. It's such a pleasure and an honor to talk with you.
Oh, good. So, audience, I hope you have enjoyed this interview. And I hope you've learned something from this, or at least get a little chuckle every now and then. But we have to go now. So Jeffrey and I will say goodbye. And as I always say, see you on the radio.